Hi, everybody. My name's Lou Sagar. I'm the founder, CEO of the Alchemist Kitchen here in New York. And I'm really delighted to be able to have a conversation with Dr. Tom Piccariello. And we met in Montreal, right?
Yep.
A few months ago. And, you know, the purpose of the talk and Q&A today, of course, we're going to talk for just 20 minutes or so. And then we really encourage people to put their questions into the chat. This is really a opportunity to direct questions, and for me really not to do more than facilitate and have Tom be able to address certain issues, you know, around his work. I do want to just preface that, you know, the last 3-4 years, people have really become quite familiar with CBD, you know, and it's almost become a generic term for what is not marijuana or the intoxicating side of the cannabis plant. And one of my goals and one of my inspirations with Tom is that the world of research and innovation in cannabis is really exploding. And during this period of COVID, we've just seen an enormous amount of new research and innovations that are going on, from the type of seeds that are being planted, the type of way things are being grown, both indoors and outdoors, more science and innovation in extraction processes, intellectual property being developed around cannabis and CBD, really with a very strong medicinal benefit, you know, and that the merging of that science and research with the cannabis plant is going to, I think, be really, really welcome news to a lot of people who are struggling with the major use states such as stress and anxiety and sleep and immunity particularly. So let's start right away, Tom. That was
Okay.
And why don't you give everybody just a nice background to where you came to in this exploration and research into the use of cannabis, and then we'll go from there. Thanks so much.
Sure. First off, Lou, it's good seeing you again.
Thank
and
you.
As usual, it's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to a little chat with you, as we always have good chats.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, to answer your question, okay, so I have a Ph.D. in chemistry, and we got involved in startups a lot. And one of the startups that we started was Synthonics. And Synthonics was started to do metal coordinated pharmaceuticals, basically take drugs, combine them with metals, and we changed the way the drug is delivered in the body. And we got involved in a lot of different areas. Well, our CEO at the time, Ken Slapika, and I have to give him credit because I wouldn't have gotten into cannabis had he not introduced me to a problem that existed in the cannabis industry. And that was basically the materials that they were working with were intractable, they were hard to work with, and there were some delivery issues with them as well. So I was introduced to this concept, or introduced cannabis, and looked at the chemistry of it, and it was asked, can I do something with it? And I looked at it and I realized, yes, this compound, CBDa, is ideally suited for the metal coordination chemistry that we developed at Synthonics. So, one thing led to another, some development work, from other individuals who were involved in the project, Michaela Mulhare, Scott Palmer. The three of us put our heads together and we came up with this concept of Chylobinoid. And this is the compound which is now currently, that you have now in your stores. It's basically what it is. It's a real simple, the most concise way I could put it is it's magnesium infused, CBDa enriched micellar construct of a hemp extract. I'm sorry, that's a lot in one phrase, but we can break it down to smaller parts if you think it's warranted. You're on mute. Lou, you're on mute. Lou, unmute yourself.
We'll
You did it again. You're on auto mute.
We'll put those words in the chat so people can also look at.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. the CBDA part of the is a cannabinoid itself, right?
It's what the hemp plant produces, yes.
Yes. And in the traditional growing of that flower, of that plant, does it require a certain type of seed, or is it a certain type of extraction to get the CBDA? Is it robust, abundant in the plant?
Well, initially the CBDA wasn't all that abundant in the plant, but through a combination of techniques that, you know, the farmers and the growers and the hybrid planters and so forth, they use different methodologies, different methods. You know, like the three pillars, and I got to give this person proper credit. Jeremy Plum explained it to me. Is phytobiology combined with, you know, agronomy combined with hybrid plant. You know, hybridizing plants and genetics and so forth. So those three things come together, and they were able to develop further cultivars of the hemp plant, where now they're getting upwards of close to 30% CBDA in the hemp plant. Now, so I just want to, you know, you mentioned something else I wanted to sort of clarify, and that the hemp produces CBDA and marijuana produces THCA, but they're the same species of plant. And the difference between them is that there is an enzyme that transforms the precursor to CBDA to CBDA, and there's an enzyme that transforms the precursor to THCA to THCA. They're different enzymes, and the CBDA enzyme is highly expressed in the hemp plant, and the THCA enzyme is highly expressed in the marijuana plant. So that's the difference between marijuana and hemp.
Yeah, interesting. And then in the chylocannabinoid, right? Chylocannabinoid?
Chylobinoid, yeah.
Chylobinoid.
Yep.
That combination, what is it that the magnesium is doing? How does the magnesium interface with the CBDA to provide the benefits? And maybe it'd be good to just mention what are the differentiating benefits that we could expect from what is the product, the ChyloCap capsule product.
Sure. Okay, so CBDA is in its natural form is somewhat unstable. And that's something that you know, Raphael Mahulam recognized as well, and said that was maybe one of the reasons why CBDA had been overlooked in the area of cannabis research and cannabis medicinal properties. So what I recognized was the fact that CBDA was not only a fat solubilizer, or in other words, the technical term for that is surfactant. It was also a good metal chelator. And I mentioned earlier, when this was introduced to me, I recognized that chemistry is really well suited for metal chelation. So magnesium became the way.
What does that mean?
Oh, chelation. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, chelation means the compound will bind to the metal in multiple modes. There are multiple atoms that can bind to the same metal from the same molecule. And that's what chelation does. And what that does is imparts like a strength of bond between the compound and metal. So the more atoms they're attached to the metal, the stronger the bond, okay? What that also does is it gives it some properties. It gives it what I call amphiphilic properties. In other words, the compound is going to be soluble in lipids, which makes it more membrane penetrable, but it's also soluble in water, which makes it more available to the membranes after it's ingested. So those amphiphilic properties allows that molecule to be absorbed much more readily than it would be otherwise, okay?
Absorption in the body.
Absorption in the body. Now that's one advantage. Now I mentioned the term micellar construct in my description of what Chylobinoid is. The micellar construct is important because that is a precursor to what the cells will recognize as a chylomicron, okay? And what that means is that most things, when they're absorbed into the intestinal cells, will get transported into the bloodstream through the liver, okay? And what happens when it does that is that the compound is highly metabolized. That's the reason why CBD, That's the reason why CBD's bioavailability is so pathetic. It's 6%. And a lot of the reason for that is because a lot of it's metabolized by the liver. Well, if you can bypass the liver, which you can do, then you basically avoided that filtration process. And that's what the micellar construct of Chylobinoid does. It's transported into the bloodstream through the lymphatic system, and thereby bypassing liver, bypassing the metabolism, and therefore your bioavailability goes up in that way as well.
Okay, so, I think that's very important for us to emphasize that one of the most important issues we face today, both as marketers, educators, producers of cannabis products, CBD, hemp, and marijuana, is bioavailability. So the products that you've been researching and the formulations that you've been researching, really important, because bioavailability has not been something that is top of mind. It's only now becoming top of mind because, it was because the consumer would say, oh, I could take this to relieve my stress, or take this to maybe calm my relax my inflammation, or help me sleep better. And there was very little conversation or education on the percentage of bioavailability, how fast. That people want to know, yes, if I take a capsule, how long will it be before it starts to take effect, or oil tincture under the tongue. So one of the things I really like to point out is that the research and development of products that you're doing, bioavailability, the value proposition of getting more of the medicine into the bloodstream by bypassing the liver, eliminating that level of metabolism, right?
Yep.
Is a really important piece of research that you're doing. So you should maybe talk to that a bit more.
Sure. I mean, there are. You're right about the fact that bioavailability was largely ignored in cannabis industry, and that makes sense because people need to understand how it's going to work, right? They need to know it's going to work, and then the second level, or maybe another level of investigation, would be to address the pharmacokinetics or the bioavailability issues of that particular compound. And people have done that, and they have designed all kinds of ways to increase the solubility of CBD. The CBD solubility is really bad. It's like nanograms per milliliter or something like this. So it's very small. It's almost insoluble. And so people have addressed at least the first half of the bioavailability issue. And I say the first half. I'm going to go back and say something here. The intestinal epithelial cells that bioavailability is the first filter. And then the second filter is the liver. So CBD had double whammy. First, it was insoluble, so it never even got past the first filter. And what did get past the first filter got to the second filter and got whammied again. So it got double whammied, and that's why its bioavailability is 6%. So people have addressed at least the first filter with the solubility issue. But not very many people have addressed the second issue, which is the liver filter issue. With magnesium CBDa or Chylobinoid, we've addressed both. We've addressed both the first filter issue and the second filter issue. So our bioavailability should be, well, it's expected to be much higher than what CBD is.
Yes, and I'll point that out because normally people have been sold on the idea, well, if you're taking 2 milligrams a drop, maybe you need 4 milligrams, increasing
Right.
potency is not the same as increasing bioavailability,
Well, that's right, because every single biologically active agent has two components to it. There's the first part of getting it into the body, which I call the pharmacokinetic part. And then once it's in the body, it has to go to the site where the pharmacologic action needs to occur. And that's the pharmacodynamic part. And it turns out that CBDA, or the acid form of CBD, is actually more potent in that regard in a lot of different places, like, for instance, the serotonin receptor. CBDA is far more potent than CBD at the serotonin receptor. And that's the receptor that's responsible for things like mood, anxiety, depression, nausea. So, CBDA, not only is it better, well, our version of CBD is better because of the bioavailability, but CBDA in itself is better than CBD for treating those kinds of disorders. I'm not saying that CBDA displaces CBD, because CBD does have its place, but CBDA for those particular conditions is probably going to be proved to be better than CBD products.
Yes. Let's take a step back for a minute to the macro of what's going on in research, and be really interesting if you could talk a bit about, this body of work, acid research. Is that the right term? It's not LSD.
No.
Within the cannabis world, but take us out a little bit and give us a bit more of the landscape of how CBDA and acid, this body of work is being addressed today.
Yeah, we touched on a little bit before that the acid forms have been somewhat neglected, primarily because of their stability issues. And if you solve the stability issues, then you've opened up a whole area of investigation that otherwise would not have been done.
What are these acid forms, though? What does that mean, an acid form?
Okay. So the plant doesn't really produce CBD. It doesn't produce THC. It doesn't produce CBN. Okay. The plant comes from not the plant, but the cannabinoids all come from a central biological precursor called CBGA, or cannabigerolic acid. Okay, that's the central molecule of which all other cannabinoids are derived. That includes CBDA, THCA, CBNCA, CBCA. All of these cannabinoids derive from CBGA.
That's the mothership. Right?
That's the mother of all. Okay, of all cannabinoids, and that comes from allotolic acid. Okay, and allotolic acid is an acid, and so it produces CBGA, and that's an acid, and all the other cannabinoids are acid. That's what the biochemical machinery of the plant does. Okay, it just produces acids. Now, the ones that are not acid, in the process of going from acid to non-acid, is a process called decarboxylation, and that happens spontaneously with time or heat or light or whatever. And so that's the reason why a lot of people recognize CBD or CBG or CBN as the cannabinoid and not the acid forms, because the acid forms are so unstable. But that's really what the difference is. The difference also exists in what I referred to earlier as the pharmacodynamics, and how these cannabinoids interact with different receptors and enzymes. The acids are important for that as well. And I can go into some detail about that too, if anybody wants to ask a question.
Well, I think the people that will be, viewing this or joining us today live, these outputs dramatically advance your knowledge over. You're moving into the 5-10% of.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to blow anybody away, but I'm hoping I'm saying things in terms of
that the mother. There's a mother. Compound, which is, what did you term that? The mother?
Well, you said mother. I said it was the precursor.
The precursor.
Yeah.
And that's called what?
CBGA.
CBGA.
CBGA, or cannabigerolic acid. Yes.
Okay. And that spawns the other cannabinoids.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So when you go and people talk to you about CBD, CBN, CBG, THC, all these subcannabinoids that from a marketing perspective are being seized upon, right, to kind of create an interest in these other subcannabinoids. It's all still coming from this one mother, CBGA.
Yep. All the cannabinoids come from CBGA.
Two, the research that you're doing and have been doing with the ChyloCannabinoid, right?
Yep.
Is innovative for its ability to bypass the liver, dramatically increasing the medicinal benefits you're seeking, because it's more medicine getting to and into the body.
Yep.
Okay, that's great.
That is correct. As a matter of fact, we have a patent application filed on that composition.
Okay, so it's patent pending.
Yep, it is.
And then speaking more to the product now, what are the ailments? Are there any for people out there that might be watching this because they have a specific health issue, right? Perhaps they've tried CBD, it's been okay, it worked, but it didn't work as effectively. Where would you guide them in terms of understanding the medicinal benefits of what is the ChyloCap capsule powder that we're now partnering with to introduce to the marketplace?
Well, remember I said that the CBDa molecule is a much more potent interactor with the serotonin receptor.
Correct.
It binds to the serotonin receptor much more strongly than CBD.
Yes.
And for that reason, there are the disease states that are associated with serotonin receptor would be CBDa would be very effective in treating, which includes alcohol addiction, for one, nausea, pain, inflammation associated with pain, depression, mood disorders, and sleeplessness. Those are the kinds of things that are all connected to the serotonin receptor. And if CBDA is been shown, the CBDA is, I can't remember the numbers, 1,000 times more potent, something like this, is more 1,000 times more potent than CBD, then you can expect that CBDA would be much more effective in treating those disorders than CBD, not only because of the potency at the receptor site, which is the pharmacodynamics again, but also because of the pharmacokinetics or the bioavailability we talked about. Yeah. So you're getting a good 1-2 punch with Chylobinoid in terms of its.
What makes it for people struggling, let's say, with alcohol addiction?
Right.
Is it specific to alcohol, or is it also for other drug dependencies? Can it mitigate cravings or be of assistance to mitigate addictive tendencies, or specifically for alcohol?
Well, at the risk of not, and I don't want to sound like an expert in that area, but my understanding from the mechanism of action, it can be. But I really wouldn't. I'd be remiss if I would expound on that.
Yeah, of course, there's not. But I think people here are very self-directed. So when they know that we're in no way trying to make claims, we're just trying to indicate where there seems to be medicinal benefit.
Right. I'm just stating what my limitations and expertise is. That's all.
Yes. That's great. Well, let's see. How about let me check if we've got some questions. Is the work you're doing effective in the area of epilepsy and people having those kinds of episodes?
Absolutely. We already know that CBD is approved for treating certain forms of epilepsy by it's called Epidiolex. Okay, and we discovered that our Chylobinoid compound can reduce seizures up to 50 to 80% in individuals. So this is a separate, independent study that's being directed by a researcher at Rush University Hospital, a neurologist. And the dosing is at least 1/5 as much. Okay, so we know that just in the anecdotal studies that we've done, that Chylobinoid is very effective at treating seizures. And it makes sense because, CBD does. And I've already stated that CBDA is going to be more potent in certain areas for the two reasons. And so you would expect that our compound would be more effective in treating seizures than CBD. And we have data to support that statement.
Great. Hey, Tom, why is so much research being done around cannabis generally and specifically in this area in Israel?
Oh, well, that's where the father of cannabis works at the Hebrew University, and his name is Raphael McCollum. And Raphael was a great forward thinker, and I think as early as 1964 or something like that, recognized the importance of cannabis, where a lot of people were sort of thinking that it was just nothing more than something people could high with. And he rejected that notion and said, no, it's much more important than that. And from his research, a whole bunch of things have come out. I mean, some of the chemistry, the biochemistry, he discovered the endocannabinoid system, which is extremely important for homeostasis in the body, which is a big reason why, at sort of the second half of the answer to your question, is why is cannabis so important now? It's because people have realized the connection to the endocannabinoid system and how that causes homeostasis in the body. And that homeostasis basically is sort of a panacea for a lot of things. It regulates inflammation. It regulates all the different responses that your body has to insults. And if you can control, or you have good endocannabinoid system stimulation, you basically have regulated all of the functions of your body to a point where it's maximum benefit and less side effects. And that's what the endocannabinoid system does. And that's what cannabinoids do for the body. And that's become a very important part of it. And I think that's a big reason why there's a big interest in cannabinoids, is the endocannabinoid system.
No, absolutely. And I think a big takeaway today should be, we have an endocannabinoid system, and the cannabinoids and compounds and molecules that come out of the cannabis plant bond very well, right? They pair up very well and stimulate and activate homeostasis, balance, right?
Yeah.
And helping to regulate mood and mitigate pain. So if you folks out there can capture that idea, that concept, then it's much easier for you to begin to understand, how do these compounds, how are they really working? And I think understanding a bit really encourage everybody to look into this endocannabinoid system, not that complicated, to get your cognitive thinking stimulated with that. And once you do, a lot of what Tom's work and other work that's being done in cannabis research will be much better understood.
Yeah, can I add something to that with kind of a sort of measure of coolness to the whole concept?
Sure.
And that is the hemp plant, or the marijuana plant, and its evolution manifested the production of cannabinoids. At the same time, the animal species developed the endocannabinoid system. And they did this probably in concert, in synergy, through some sort of communication. This is not an unusual concept. You'll find this concept in a book written by Michael Pollan called Botany of Desire. Yep. And explains how, that the human interaction with plants sort of provided a accelerated natural selection, so that the plants were able to produce these beneficial properties in their plant for the human, and the humans at the same time were developing their endocannabinoid system. So you're really, by embracing cannabinoids, you're embracing something that evolution has provided for us.
Yes. Oh, that's a great, hey, I didn't know that myself. So that's a great, these are really great takeaways, Tom. Yeah, there's always, I guess, a question about, a lot of people are interested in relief from Crohn's disease, migraine. Can you just comment on the CBDa for that, the ChyloCaps that we're working with you on? Is that a specific remedy to try out for migraine relief, Crohn's disease? Lots of interest here.
Chylobinoid is helpful for Crohn's disease. Don't have any direct information that I can think of that people have demonstrated that, but there has been reports that cannabinoids are effective in treating Crohn's disease. So I'm not sure how much I can tell you about that. I know migraine headaches, it's worked for people. And I have direct evidence to demonstrate that close friends of mine have taken cannabinoid. They have migraines. They've not been able to resolve them with anything that typically is used. The cannabinoid fixes it, and it's happened a lot. There's very frequently. So I wish I could say more about Crohn's disease. Cannabinoids in general are very effective for Crohn's disease, but I just don't have any direct evidence I can think of that where our compound was that helpful with Crohn's disease.
We appreciate that. I think people are just interested when they have family members and friends and associates that struggle with these symptoms or with these diseases. And again, I think people for the most part are very self-directed and recognize that research is still in the early stages, but more and more funding we're seeing more and more funding going into affirm what you and I know, which is to be mindful to not make claims or try to say it's going to cure anything, but eyes wide open. Many people are looking for options away from a pharmaceutical solution into a more natural solution. So I think that we always like to emphasize that, Yes. So we think that it'd be good to maybe mention that talk a little bit more to the powder and the capsule that you've produced, and that we're now I think it comes in both a powder capsule form and a lotion, right? And maybe you could talk to that, and we'll see if there's some more questions, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Sure. Well, we formulated the cannabinoid powder, which cannabinoid is a powder. That's how it exists, which is beneficial because that allows us to be able to formulate it very easily in different forms. We can put it in solution, we can mix it with other powders, which is what we did with the capsules. So that's just basically the cannabinoid powder mixed with other powders and then put in a capsule so it survives the stomach, because we don't want the cannabinoid to dissolve in the stomach because it breaks up the micellar complex. We want to preserve that. So when it's delivered to the small intestines, it has the benefit of lymphatic transport. And so that formulation is, we worked on that for months to try to figure that how to make that most beneficial. So then the lotion itself is a formulation that was largely spearheaded by our team of scientists here. Jabari Bird is our operations director, and he was probably the person most involved with the development of that. And that lotion and other topicals that we have have proven to be extremely effective for all kinds of pain, whether it be muscle pain, joint pain, neuropathic pain. So the lotion has been shown, and the other topicals that we have, I think you have the lotion, and is very effective for pain. And that's a different part of how the technology works. And that is for things like topicals, the magnesium CBDa complex allows it for deeper penetration into the skin.
I see.
So that goes back to the bioavailability side.
Sure, the magnesium really enhances that.
Yep, sure does.
Yeah. I really appreciate having this time today, and I think that we really encourage everyone out there, if you want to learn more about this product, you can visit the Alchemist Kitchen website. You can reach out to Luca, who's our moderator, and she be happy to offer you some special incentives if you want to sample the product or enjoy some special savings. That's all available to you. There'll be a follow-up email to all of you that have joined, and then the recording of this will be available, and we hope to share this via our press and media with many more in our community and audience. And again, it's so appreciative, Tom, that you took some time today to give us this education.
Lou, it was my pleasure to be here. I really do appreciate the conversation. you are a knowledgeable guy, and a knowledgeable person like you would be the kind of person that could stimulate a conversation like that.
Take me with you when you go for the big prizes, so I can translate for you.
Okay, hey Lou, can I mention one more thing, because you brought it up?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you brought up something earlier about the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, stimulating a lot of research in the cannabis area.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to say something specifically about that. And there have been 2 studies done recently, at least 2, and they both have demonstrated how one was CBD and the other was CBDa, but they both have demonstrated how these particular compounds are very effective against the COVID virus. So that is, when you said, COVID facilitating a lot of research in cannabis area, yeah, specifically it's happened. Not just generally speaking, but very specifically it's happened.
Very important. Look, our message actually, I think we've all of us who are conscious and have been doing our best to take the preventative measures, realize that we really are not, we're going to have to live with pandemic perhaps for the rest of our lives, that that's just becoming a way of life, and therefore where ChyloCap and some other products really can be of help is if you're traveling. Now you're going to start traveling, you're going to have symptoms, you may get symptoms. This is the kind of herbal ally in your first aid you want to have, so you can move to it as a preventative measure to mitigate. In no way it's saying it's not going to stop COVID, but it's now in your medicine cabinet, in your toolkit, in your DOP kit when you're traveling. And when you see symptoms, traveling more and more and moving around, and here we're having the lifting of mandates, there's already concerns what's going to happen. This is the kind of product I think you really want to have when we realize that it's not about just vaccines. It's about a continued effort to use great products that can help mitigate the spread of COVID, the onset of symptoms, as another ally to everything else that's being done in the medical side. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. As a matter of fact, your discussion gave me an idea for a tagline.
All right.
Half Chylobinoid will travel.
All right. There you go. Well, I think that we really I think this is a big point that people have been, are going to start to travel and move around, whether it's within their own communities, larger gatherings, visiting their families in their countries and other countries. And this is a kind of product that, I truly believe in is what you should have specifically for that. It's not just for stress and all of the other benefits that you could be taking with ChyloCap on a daily basis. I take it.
Yeah. I take it twice a day.
That's great. So I'm so appreciative you brought that up.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. We want to let you guys go and have a great rest of your day. Tom, to be continued, and look forward to seeing you here in New York on your next trip up.
There you go. All right. Very good, Lou. All right. Take care. Thanks. I appreciate it. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Appreciate it.